You're running across uneven ground, chasing something, when your foot catches a hidden root. Your weight lands wrong on one leg, and you hear it before you feel it. A dry crack, like a branch snapping. Except the branch is your own thigh bone. Then the pain hits all at once. You're on the ground. You can't stand. And underneath the pain, a worse realization forms. You cannot run anymore. Not today. Not for a long time. And 50,000 years ago, an animal that cannot run is an animal that dies. Today, break your leg and you already know what happens. Ambulance, x-ray, a cast, crutches, home by dinner. 6 weeks later, you're basically fine. But for almost all of human history, none of that existed. No x-rays, no anesthesia, no antibiotics. Just you, on the ground, with a shattered bone, and whatever the people around you could actually do. So what happened when someone broke a leg 50,000 years ago? Usually it was catastrophic, but not always. And the exceptions are some of the most astonishing evidence we have about how ancient humans treated each other. First, the danger. The femur is wrapped in some of the biggest muscles in your body, and running through that muscle is the femoral artery, one of your largest blood vessels. A bad break can sever it. Without a way to stop that bleeding, you can die in minutes. Second, if the bone tears through skin, that's an open fracture. And in a world with no antibiotics, an exposed wound was often a death sentence on a delay. Infection could take a week to kill you, but it usually did. Third, mobility itself. Hunter-gatherer groups moved constantly, following food and seasons. Someone who couldn't walk couldn't move with the group. A broken leg wasn't just an injury. It was a resource problem for everyone. Given all that, you'd expect the fossil record to show almost no healed leg fractures. For a long time, that's exactly what anthropologists assumed. That early human life left no room for anyone who couldn't keep up. Then, in 1957, in a cave called Shanidar in northern Iraq, archaeologists found a skeleton that upended that assumption. He's known as Shanidar I, a Neanderthal man who lived roughly 45,000 years ago. His right arm had been amputated or withered above the elbow. His eye socket was crushed, likely blinding him on one side. He had significant hearing loss, and his leg bones showed a healed fracture and joint damage from a serious injury years earlier. Every one of those injuries should have been fatal on its own in a world without medicine. Together, they should have made survival impossible. And yet, based on tooth wear and arthritis progression, researchers estimate Shanidar I lived into his 40s, decades after the injuries occurred. For a Neanderthal, that's old age. A one-armed, partially blind man with a badly damaged leg didn't survive for decades by being self-sufficient. Other people kept him alive. Someone fed him. Someone protected him. And years earlier, when his leg was freshly broken and he couldn't move at all, someone decided not to leave him behind. So how did they actually treat the fracture? Bone heals itself, building a soft callus around the break that hardens over weeks. Left alone, it heals badly, crooked, shortened. The one thing that makes it heal straight is keeping it still. And that just takes something rigid, bound tightly against the leg. We don't have direct proof of what Ice Age splints looked like. Wood and bark don't survive that long. But later evidence shows the technique already fully developed. At Naga ed Deir in Egypt, dated to roughly 3000 BCE, Archaeologists found forearm bones still wrapped in actual splints, bark padding bound with linen. And the Edwin Smith Papyrus, an Egyptian medical text copied around 1600 BCE from a source possibly 1,000 years older, gives detailed instructions for aligning and splinting broken bones. One of the oldest medical documents in human history, and a real chunk of it is about how to keep a broken bone from moving. That technique almost certainly didn't start in Egypt. Ethnographic studies of more recent hunter-gatherer groups living closer to how our ancestors lived show the same method, invented independently across unconnected cultures. Bark or wood, padded, bound tight with cord. Simple enough that it was probably discovered again and again, the same way clothing and footwear were. But a splint doesn't solve everything. Someone with a broken leg still needed to be fed, protected, sometimes carried for weeks or months. That's an enormous cost for a small group to absorb. And the evidence keeps showing the same answer. They usually paid it. Other healed fractures show up across the Neanderthal and early human fossil record again and again. We didn't just survive by being tough. We survived by refusing to abandon each other when someone stopped being useful in the short term. Someone knelt beside a person with a shattered leg, found the sturdiest branch they could, bound it tight, and committed, with no idea if it would work, to keep that person alive until it did. You go to a hospital today, and within hours, a machine has already photographed the bone. A specialist has aligned it, and a cast locks everything in place. It's so efficient the crisis barely registers. But the idea behind that cast is the same one someone figured out by firelight tens of thousands of years ago, tying bark against broken bone, deciding a person was still worth carrying.